the United States has said officially to the world, and be ratified September 25th, that America's number one problem is racism, and her number two problem is criminal justice. And so, when we use the executive order for the My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge, we're doing it from a grassroots. So we, just like I'm talking to you, to establish a report to you, okay, and et cetera, so that we can put a MOU together, all right, so that you know what we're responsible for, and what you say that you're going to be responsible for, okay. That's what I want you to think about, okay. What you want to get done within this context, go and to My Brother's Keeper. You can just Google that, but for Cincinnati, you can go mvkgc.weebly.com. And our website is fauchamber.org. So we'll be here next Friday at 8 p.m. Okay, Eastern Standard Time. And so if you have some additional questions, you can always reach me at my email at fauchairman@gmail.com, or call me at 513-858-5275. Oh, 1 moment.
Yeah, hold on. We have another caller, too, just called in. He may have a question for you, too, after this gentleman gets done, Mr. Chairman, sir. This is Carl Brown Foundation.
513. Yeah, 858. 858. 5275. 5275. Yes, sir. Okay, you have another caller. And may I say stay on the line. Go ahead.
Yeah, keep listening. Yes.
Yes, sir. That phrase is used very loosely in the world today. Am I my brother's keeper? It goes back to the Bible. I'm a strong, I'm a knower of the Word of God. Not all of it, but I know some things. The Word of God is alive today. And when God came, hey, King, where your brother at? I also do Christian comedy, but it's the truth. It's not funny, but some of it is, some is not. Where your brother at? Cain said unto God, what am I, my brother's keeper? God already knew he had slain his blood brother. They're doing it now in the street. That's why safety is very important to me. Children need to be taught. Young folk need to be taught. Cain got smart, backed off God. What am I, my brother's keeper? They're using it loosely in the world, but there's a spirit. The Word of God is true. Yes, you are. Cain slain his brother. Cain got smart with God. God knew the truth. Am I my brother's keeper? And they show it in the movies. They portray that phrase, and they don't tell the truth behind that phrase. Cain said, what am I, my brother's keeper? Is written in the Bible. God already knew. That's why safety is a very important part of my calling by God, to go into the streets, the highways and the byways. And I would ride my bike through the streets. When people say this is a bad neighborhood, you shouldn't go out at night, I ride, I patrol. That's part of my passion. That's part of what God has called me to. It's not about me. So I'm taking myself out the picture. And people say this phrase also. They say, man, I'm just doing me. And I tell them, don't do you. Because you ain't been doing right by you. That's why your life is in chaos. Let the Spirit of God do you. And guide me, direct every day. Lord, what you got me doing today?
All right.
That would make their life better.
Yes, and okay.
And so we do that out of the United, in terms of that, we do that out of the United Methodist Church and Keys of the Kingdom.
That's here in Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's here.
Okay. Now, I'm just getting introduced today to Am I My Brother's Keeper?
Right.
Mr. Carlton, today.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. So I just want to let you know that, the Spirit of God led me, and we met today. I would like to be a part.
Well,
and I'm a volunteer.
Well, we're evangelizing out of the church, okay, because it's globally, it's 1 out of every 3 members is an African in the church. Okay, 12 million people, 4 million are African, 400,000 are African American. And so the whole idea is that the basis of an alliance under My Brother's Keeper, but that we as men have to stand up. And that's something that,
sir, men of God, men who are called. I just want to add that in there.
Well, we continue that. A decade ago, we started the 100 Male March Ministry. Okay, and so we picked it back up, and I think you'll be interested to find out about that. And again, if you want to evangelize, welcome to it, brother. Okay.
It's my calling.
Then I understand when he puts something on you. Okay, I understand that. But let me take this for a second, okay? And you have my phone number, you have my email. Okay,
yes, sir.
Don't go away. Let's go ahead with the second.
I'll listen.
Okay,
I'll listen.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let the Lord do His will.
There he is.
Second caller, please.
Yeah. Something you said we had a second caller?
I thought it was a second caller. I heard him buzz in. He might have hung up.
Okay. Yeah. No. There's Todd who's on the line in New York.
Okay. Yes, sir.
He went on mute.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. I'd like to steer it a little better to some more directions. The chairman will be talking about tonight about sustainable development goals, public-private partnerships. He's been talking about My Brother's Keeper of Greater Cincinnati. This is being recorded for historical purposes and for the archives of Friends of the African Union. The chairman is the Commonwealth of the African Diaspora, and over the 6th region of the African Union, the 54 states. Any other questions, economic questions about things about jobs or upcoming projects, the sewer project and things like that coming to Greater Cincinnati? And we'd also like to talk to the chairman about FAU sports.
Well, what we're going to do is set the agenda to have that posted on the website. That's the good thing is that we do have a website. It's fauchamber.org or friendsoftheafricanunion.com. You can always Google us at Friends of the African Union and get the background there. But let me take a quick moment to cover those areas that Carl talked about. We're a United Nations civil society organization working for the betterment of the people of the African Union, which includes 1.4 billion people plus who are members of the 6 regions of the African Union. We're the newest region. We came into being July 16, 2012, and we are just now, setting up our organizational infrastructure. But we made a promise that we, as Friends of the African Union, will be an honest broker and not participate in the politics of electing representation. So what our job is to be the secretary, to be the administrators, to put together the infrastructure that supports the political process. And so,
Good morning, David, Chief Information Officer at FAU.
Welcome.
Well, okay. So what we're doing, just like with Tamar, okay, he's got a Master of Library Science, and we're setting up the library for our people so that we can interface, okay, with the different libraries based on the Cincinnati model. Okay, and that is the utilization of public assets like libraries, so that we can tie it into finding out who we are. Like me, I know on my father's side, I am Nubian, okay, Frenchman, okay, and 1848. That a Nubian woman was taken by a Frenchman, and my father's line was started. So, you know, we now have access to the Freedmen Bureau records. We now have access to DNA studies, et cetera. So we're making sure. Yeah. We can trace your bloodline now. Okay, and that's a key thing. Okay, so that we build up the identity. You know where you come from. So we have a rites of passage program that we worked out earlier with Baba Kirk from East End House, the rites of passage program that Dr. Paul Hill put together. But like I said, my situation is different because I've actually lived in Africa and Egypt and Alexandria and Egypt and studied the old texts in Luxor. Okay, and studied in Coptic Church. And, you know, sometimes, as they say, God provides the teacher when the student is ready. Okay, so I have such a time for myself personally. I've been provided now with a fivefold teacher who knows the book pre-King James, pre-Nicosia, as well as I did, and better than I did. Let me say not well as, better than I did. That's why he's the teacher. But the implementation is something that, you know, as you well know, it's a one-on-one. It's that between, you know, you and Creator, the Father of us all. Okay, of this existence that we are as we animate this, our bodies that someday will go earth to earth. And we have the chance to live on as the children of the Most High God. And so, with that being said, okay, you know, my studies in the soil of Africa differentiate where a majority of us are not even aware of. From that, we now bring into Cincinnati specifically. Programmatically talking about the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and bringing those focus to the African American community so to help uprise that community, not only the utilization of My Brother's Keeper, but also President Obama's 2012 act that raised for historically black colleges and universities access to funding that was previously to them. All right, but you know we're Cincinnati focused, and if you're a builder and you do stuff online, you know, go to plancincinnati.org, and that's the plan for the city. Okay, all right, that's the plan that became the law in 2012. That when I talk about the building houses. That we're adding a dash of color to that plan. Okay.
Yes, sir. With all respect and honor to you, sir, I believe we have another caller.
Well, yeah. Todd, are you still with us? And do we have? I know Carlton's with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Todd, I think, is on mute. Do we have any other callers?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. I'm here. Okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No disrespect, but we have a
No, that's not a problem. I've been in my first rodeo, if you will. But I do want to say something that there's a New York Times article for the chairman and Carlton and the new brothers from Cincinnati. There's a New York Times article that Silicon Valley is looking to increase diversity, and it is kind of disturbing, but also exciting as an opportunity. It's disturbing, number one, that they're not hiring or has not hired, and they have to kind of have a direct campaign. But then it's also exciting that the work that we've done through the Urban Tech Fair, and I had heard from a good brother in California in a while. I hope that he's doing well, and I would love to kind of revisit that now since not just since the New York Times article, but
all right, gentlemen. Okay, I call privilege of the floor to the conference. We have guests in the house that Baba Wesley has brought to the table to talk about reparations and some background, brother. Okay, I don't come from reparations, but I come from movement. I come from 45 years being a Garveyite that went in 90 working in the World Conference of Mayors, and then coming back and working in the Senior Honorary Consul from the Republic of Guinea to the United States. So I was never part of the official reparations movement per se. Rather, after living on the continent, we were the diplomatic representation for the Senior Honorary Consul for the country of Guinea to the United States. So that was the background that in 2011, when Ambassador Ali called the meeting on December 16, 2011. Now, Wesley, did you cover all that, or do you want me to walk through this?
No, I just talked about in 2012. You can mention that, and also, I want to also show you just some background and recover also.
All right, so. Then, brother, are you familiar with the actions of the African Union creating the sixth region in 2012?
2012? No, I'm not. I mean, I don't know the details of it. I remember back during the Global African Congress meeting in Barbados, or the African Senate Congress meeting that we had, and there was talks about the regions that was created, the possibility of having the diaspora segment added to it. And since that time, I have not really kept up with it in detail.
All right, so this started back in my day when I was active back in the 90s, right? Okay, and the transition from the OAU into the AU. All right, so those of us who, because we were diplomats, we set a path. My particular path was to create Africa, but the path that we set on was first expressed as one, to get them to them being the African Union now, to recognize us as part of Africa. So that happened in 2005. Okay, they defined the diaspora as never being forgotten. Okay, and basically that happened in 2005. Then 7 years later, on July 16, 2012, Africa officially created the sixth region of the African Union. Okay, all right, as a governmental organization, just like the EU. All right, they said that there's a sixth region. The sixth region is everybody who is of African blood, which is defined as 1% or more. Okay, that is not living in Africa, the continent. Okay.
Oh.
And so.
What has been the role?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, what has been, since that time, since 2012, what has been the role and function inside of AU?
Well, so let's take the meeting. Let's take the meeting meeting, okay, first they had the meeting on African Liberation Day, May 25th, where they set it up, right? So David Dinkins was called as an elder and took a delegation from here. And one of our elders, Lee Cherry, was one of the elders that they brought to South Africa in preparation for this. Okay, so when this happened, okay, so it didn't happen in a vacuum. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, the other part is when it happened, they gave us some tasks to do. Okay, so that we get organized. One, find out what everybody's got the skills to do. Two, organize the businesses that are you have. Okay, so we know what business you do. So one's a volunteer skills database, the other is a business group. Okay, then third, transfer. You know, we need to replace Western Union. Okay, so they didn't say it like that, but that's the reality. Okay, high rates. Then four, create a market. Okay, create a unified market. You got 1.4 billion people now. Remember, Africa, the continent, is 1.1 billion people. Well, its diaspora is 300 million people. Brazil being the biggest, but we're the richest. See, we're the big bad black people who don't have. Majority of us have not figured out how to climb out under that rock that fell on us. Okay, but some of us have. Okay, and some of us said the rock missed us completely. Okay, but you know, in 2012 they gave us the chance to say that, you know, now create a market of 1.4 billion people. How are you going to do that? And then five, create the company that's going to do all that. Okay, so we joined together with a whole bunch of other groups in the National Unity Council in January of 2012. Okay, and as a result, I was telling him about David Horn. He knows David Horn. Okay, so David was chosen to be the administrative head of relative to that, and nothing happened. You know, the group never coalesced to go into action. So in 2013, the African Union had a meeting. Okay, now with its 6 regions. And said, hey, look, here's our 50 in January 2013. After a great fight, okay, there was elected the first woman to head Africa, okay, and Dr. Zuma, okay, she used to be the foreign minister for South Africa, okay, and so she, and her agenda was to move expeditiously in January 2013 and put a 50-year plan on the table. And spend a year putting that plan and getting buy-in from all sectors in the community, getting the African Development Bank in 2014, putting it together, okay. Putting it together. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. And so she put the nuts and bolts, and the key thing that happened for us here in America was that President Obama signed on to that plan in 2013. Okay, he signed on the U.S. government, okay, specifically, he signed on to an accelerated schedule from 2013 through 2017. Okay, and 2012, let me digress and say, in 2012, everything you saw last year in Washington was set up in 2012, okay, at the U.S. Africa Business Summit. Now, I got invited to that, so I was inside the room. Okay, and I said, you know, basically, brothers and sisters, give us a chance to get our stuff together in one shot. All right, and so in 2013, they invited us to the African Union Embassy to the United Nations. All right, so when we went there, okay, what we were one of 2 groups, Friends of African Union and New Future Foundation. We not only participated, but in our case, we headed the committee for the economic platform. And so we had some input. Judge T.C. Adams chaired that committee, and we sat on the reparations committee. Okay, I sat on the reparations committee. Now, the agreement at that meeting in October 2013 was that CARICOM, as an African peer organization, would take the lead in global reparations requests. Okay, that's what the diaspora agreed. Okay, but we never ceded here in America our own request. Okay, but rather we said that CARICOM, because it is a peer organization to the African Union, okay, that it should take the first run because it's a government. Okay, and so that it's a governmental representative organization. So they went forward and have hired the lawyers, okay, and
welcome, new caller. Welcome, Chairman is speaking. You there, Mr. Chairman?
Hello?
Yes, it's Carlton here. The chairman may be right back. He may have had something real quick, but he'll be right back.
Oh, okay. I thought about, I have a new phone, and it's like I unplugged it because it was charging, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoop.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Hey, God is good. He lining up his people.
Oh, yes, sir. He sure is. I told you it's
It's not my will.
yes, sir.
Christ was on the cross saying, not my will, but your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes, sir. I agree,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so it's just me and you talking now?
Well, no, there's other people on there. Mr. Wesley, you there?
Oh,
Mr. Wesley, you there, sir? Mr. Wesley?
Brother David is here. Oh, Brother David.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wesley, can y'all continue where the chairman wanted y'all to continue at until he gets back?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Did he jump off?
I'm still here, and I'm good at listening. Chairman Herschel was explaining the changing dynamics of Africa in terms of international politics in regard to the changing from the Organization of African Unity, which was started by Kwame Ture, into the changing of into the African Union. And so he was talking about different dynamics, talking about reparations that was discussed at the UN by several members of the Sixth Region of the African Union here in the United States. And the advocacy, not just for Africans in America, but Africans throughout the diaspora. And so, Brother Chairman was actually explaining that to the collective because I think somebody asked the question in terms of the impact of history and in terms of internationalism in regard to the African Union, or the Friends of the African Union. So that was what he was discussing a couple of minutes ago. Does anybody have any? Yes. I'm sorry. Pardon. Go ahead. I'm listening. No. I just joined. Yeah, I think I interrupted your last word. My apologies. That's right. So I actually sat at one of the meetings with the New Future Foundation with Queen Mother Blakely, and we discussed and put on the table recently. Back in October.
So I apologize that I lost power. Okay, and it took me this long to get back online. Okay, so I appreciate that, Tamar.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so the short of it is that the reparations movement that CARICOM has carried out was agreed upon in October 2013. Okay, and now remember I said I wasn't part of the reparations infrastructure. So when I looked around in 2014 and we had a chance to deal with reparations using the Organization of American States, reparations protocol in the United Nations for the Universal Periodic Review of the USA. I looked around for organizations which were part of the United Nations and that were at that meeting, and there was only one other organization, and that was the Future Foundation. And so
Marshall, take a minute and take 30 seconds explaining what the UPR is and how that's connected to the NFL.
Okay, so the United Nations created and so can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. So the United Nations created in 2006 a process for advancing the humanitarian agenda of the 1948 agreement. Okay, and so what it created for all 193 nations of the world is a peer review process. Okay, a universal, peer review process that said, okay, all right, you say that you have a human rights record that you want to boast about, so what are your legal commitments that your Constitution, your laws, and the agreements that we agree on the world for human rights, where do you stack up? Okay, and the way that will work is that there's 193 nations that are in the United Nations, and the other 192 nations will comment on what you say. Okay, and so whatever you say, then the rest of the world will comment on it. Now, when the rest of the world comments on it, those foreign nations then can have their civil society. They set up ways that their civil society participates in those reviews. Okay, so each sets up their different ways that they participate. Okay, and so at the end of the day, you then as a government also are reviewed by United Nations civil society organizations. So the United Nations said not only can you do it through your government, but if you are one of us, one of the United Nations organizations, then you can do it directly. Well, New Future Foundation is one of those organizations. And remember that thing back in 2013, and so I went through the list and said, okay, who's one of those organizations who's at this list who I can talk to about getting into the Universal Periodic Review, because our application is being processed, but it is not, we didn't get authorized until about 2 days ago. By ourselves. So the United Nations has this thing where you can create joint ventures. And so with New Future Foundation, to make it, we entered into a joint venture. And that joint venture, said that we would respond to the Universal Peer Review for the United States of America. And that we would then, within that, we would take the lead, Friends of the African Union, because we figured out how to use this to ask for reparations legally and put the United States on, I couldn't understand why it hadn't been used before, here in the United States. That's something that I would ask you and others, about the organization. What we used was the Organization of American States. Are you familiar with that?
I am somewhat, but not in detail.
All right. So with 1948, when we created, helped create the United Nations, we also created for the Americas an organization called the Organization of American States, OAS.
Yeah.
All right. And so that organization has been our tool, and in it has a court, like our Supreme Court, and it has rules. Yeah. And it has a reparations protocol, built into it. All right, as part of the organizational structure that we in the United States have used, for Native Americans and others in Colombia and the southern hemisphere. So I used it for us. I put it in the treaty because part of what the Universal Periodic Review is let you as a country say what you're talking about, and then the world gets to respond. Okay, and so the world responded, and from the first one, and then the United States classified under the Obama administration said, okay, all right, I got that, but what I will do is that I will create 10, areas, and that the peer review evaluation will be evaluated under the 10 areas that President Obama's state, Department of State said. And so the number one thing it said to the world is that racism is our number one, humanitarian problem. And the second thing he said is criminal justice is the number two thing that the United States has a humanitarian problem with. So when he's saying this to the world. And so as when he says this, and he goes all the way down to number 10, which says any treaties that we haven't have. Now what I did was I used the 2012 treaties in force document. So each year the United States State Department issues a report and says these are the treaties that the United States recognizes that are in force here. And those treaties go all the way back for us, back to 1885, when the United States and 13 other nations got together in Berlin and created the Africa we know. And so that treaty is still in force, which is why it makes us different than a lot of other diasporan countries, is because there's only 13 nations of us that have under that treaty that's in force internationally authority, to care for our brothers and sisters on the continent. Because out of that treaty became what is now the African Union. Then separate is that treaties in force, includes the Organization of American States. And so by calling on that Organization of American States, I called for a reparations payment of $5 trillion using quantitative easing authority, of which the president received some $16 trillion in authority when he came into office. Now, they thought that was going to be John McCain administrating that money. They didn't think it was going to be Barack Obama administrating that money. All right, so they
take 15 seconds to explain quantitative easing.
Quantitative easing is where the government prints money. It's when the President of the United States says to the Treasury Secretary, go get our agents, the Federal Reserve, and tell them that they are authorized to print $16 trillion worth of new dollars. And that $16 trillion worth of new dollars will be used in this manner. So the original money...
Okay, gentlemen, we may have lost him again because he's having a power thing. We're having a big storm here in Cincinnati, so he will be right back.
No, I'm still here, so you didn't hear any of that.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. I'm sorry, Chairman.
Okay, so, all right, so quantitative easing is when the President tells the Treasury Secretary to go to our agents, the Federal Reserve, because remember, the Federal Reserve is a private agency. It's not a public agency, but it operates under a contract with the U.S. government. And so what happens is that the president was given $16 trillion worth of authority. All right, and they thought it was going to be McCain, but it turned out to be Obama, okay, who's got that authority because he won. And so that first $900 billion that everybody was scrambling for TARP, that's where it came from. The Federal Reserve printed up money to buy that debt. It bought all that $900 billion. Now, President Obama set the rules of how you apply for that money, okay? And then he went on to save the economy, to save the American economy. What he did was for basically a year and a half, he pumped $85 billion a month into the housing market. Okay, you want to know why the housing market got money? It's because they received over $1.4 trillion worth of pump in from President Obama. So out of the 16 trillion, now we're members, Friends of African Union is members of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. Our Chamber of Commerce is, and so that's an organization that meets once a year with the Federal Reserve. 4 times a year, we meet with the major money center banks. We go into the room, close the door, don't take any notes, and call each other truthful names. Okay, and I sat down with one brother who told the chairman of the Federal Reserve, "You lie." Okay, to his face. Okay, now didn't expect the brother to be able to come back in the room because the chairman of the Federal Reserve is protected by the Secret Service. But he was, and they are, and they continued it since 2005. So that's community reinvestment. So we know what quantitative easing is, and there was an audit of the Federal Reserve in 2010. And if you ever wanted to know why Dodd-Frank passed and that you had Ron Paul and as well as Barney Frank voting for it, it's because it included an audit of the Federal Reserve. And once we had that audit, we found out that they had wrote themselves a check for $16 trillion. And more importantly for us is that we now knew the rules. Okay, that was the key part. We knew the rules. So knowing all that, remember I said that was in 2010, 2011. So when this all came back and that, I had originally asked for the money for work for Americans back to Katrina. Back to 2005. That's what I was asking for. Why was that quantitative easing in 2010? And then when she called me, Ali called in December 2011. By 2012, I had pointed that request in an Afrocentric term. Then for 1.25 trillion, 300 billion in infrastructure, 7 million households, in America investing $100,000 each in them. And that, by the way, that's a leveraged amount. Okay, so that means that you get 4 times that relative to that if you're doing business. And then $250 billion for a million businesses who would receive $250,000, with the idea that 2015 that we would have those businesses together. Well, little did I know that it was going to take me 3 years to get here. Okay, and here is where we are now. We're in Trinity.